Are you ready?
Good news, everyone!
I'm the surprise in your cereal box. I'm
great! Everybody else sucks!
I said, are you ready?
Yes, sir, random kid I just met.
It's Ciely.
Hooray! People are paying attention to me.
That's right! You're always blaming me!
So, my reputation exceeds me.
It's time to check the link.
Oh, wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.
You know what? You just made the list.
It's all in football.
Sure, we talk about it all the time.
Really?
No, burn!
What is up, you ducks? It is a Monday, an all-in football on FTN. We are going to continue to talk Rocket or Docket players, early ADPs. We're going to talk about the Saints. They've been lingering for quite a while now, but we're finally going to talk about them. And then everybody's favorite tight end of the world, Dalton Kincaid, today on All In Football. But if you want to head over to FTN, code ALLIN, get you 20% off. If you go to The Athletic, it's $2 a month right now. And I don't know if you've seen, The Athletic is officially the New York Times sports section. The New York Times, as they bought us,
Nice.
the sports section is now folded into that's The Athletic is their sports. Also, you might not have seen two parts here. One is going forward. This is now 10:30 Monday and Wednesdays, half-hour shows. Monday, Wednesday, every single week, 10:30 Eastern time, not Meaney's time. Meaney time is like that's already noon for him practically. He's already having lunch. But
Supper soon.
I know. That's 10:30 Mondays, Wednesdays, and then of course if you missed it, we're now on SiriusXM Saturday mornings, 9 to 11, a full 2 hours. Talked a lot of draft strategy over first show. If you missed it, you can still listen on demand. If you go to the link, it's the SiriusXM.com/FTN Fantasy. So you can check, or we tweet out the link so you can get the first 3 months free. It'll take you all the way through the start of the season, which is really nice. Like my buddy was like, "Oh, I missed the show. Can I listen to it?" I was like, "On demand," and you don't even have to pay for it until like the season's already started.
It's perfect. I know some people may be on the fence about getting SiriusXM, and it's like, hey, well, now I'm going to get it because I get to, listen to you guys, and also the first 3 months free. So, man, I was really happy with how it went, and yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun ride. Hopefully, you guys hang out with us.
Yeah, and good music, which
fantastic,
great
job.
work.
Yeah.
We have like between Fox and then Greg over in Sirius, we have like the best combo of producers out there. Like,
Yeah,
just, like,
we do.
Do I
We got
have
it
to buy
made.
Christmas presents this year?
Yes, you do.
You know what? I'll buy them. Go to my Twitter, by the way, at AllinKid. I tweeted this out. I'm curious to see this poll. It's skewing a little bit different than I expected. My wife and I played Mario Kart last night, and I dropped a couple F-bombs, mostly because we were going to talk Chris Olave here in a second and Michael Thomas and all the rest. But I just want to get this because I want people to vote. I'm going to make this quick as I can. But it was we're playing on 150cc, and I'm trying to get the gold cups and everything. And the third race, I was coming around probably a tenth of the lap to the finish. And first, I get hit by the dude throwing a green shell, like Mario Kart 8, by the way, Jiggles, throwing the green shell off the wall in front of him, and it bounces back into me. So I'm like, already, like seriously, that ricochet, like I can't even hit guys directly behind me. But anyway, hit that. I recover, boom, immediately get hit by a dude driving by with a horn. And I'm like already starting to get on edge. Recover, boom, dude with the freaking plant. I'm having a brain fart because I'm like so aggravated even just thinking of it. The freaking plant grabbed me. Yeah. And then I started to drive a little bit. I saw Nicole pass me. I was in first. Saw Nicole pass me. And then boom, lightning. And I ended up finished 12th. Like, I was like, I have never been, oh my God, I was so enraged. I got hit by 4 things within the span of like 8 seconds, and I've never been angrier. So I asked, if you go to Twitter, what AI cheats the most? A lot of people were saying if you play on all Madden against the computer, call back to NBA Jam back in the day. If anybody knows if you got a double-digit point lead, the computer, rubber band effect, you get steals throwing you across the court. And then apparently a lot of people said FIFA, but I thought that was more of a glitchy thing. I thought that was just that the computer just has like seizures at times and it bounces off their heads and goes the wrong way. And like
it goes the wrong way.
Those are the 4 choices.
I've seen that in FIFA plenty of times. I can't play FIFA online because they're too good. People are just too good at that soccer game. So when I do play, against a computer, like in a dynasty or it's like
Fox
a high
said
version.
FIFA.
Yeah. Fox said FIFA. Yeah, I kind of agree with him. Like, I really do. It's it can be frustrating.
I think people are forgetting how bad NBA Jam was. Like it was almost instant steal. Like, and then like they would toss you. Like it was. Ooh, I forgot about NBA Jam and how bad.
I don't really mind that because when you're up by double-digit points, like I don't know, you're just cruising. So maybe let it be.
No, it comes back so quick. It's 3-minute quarters. You don't have a lot of time. Like,
it's true, you don't.
Yeah. So. Especially if they get on fire. But anyway, speaking of on fire, how about that? I wasn't even planning to do that transition. Speaking of on fire, actually, I could take it two different ways, Meaney. Do you want me to talk about a player on fire or an ADP on fire? How about that? I'll let you.
An ADP on fire.
Okay, so the player on fire. You knew I was going to do it.
I actually have no idea. I think I do, Nick, because I looked.
I keep you on your toes with this one.
But yeah, we're good.
The player on fire, Chris Olave, was on fire for his rookie season. Wasn't great every single week, but up there with Garrett Wilson success-wise, as in why we're excited them potential wide receiver ones for this season. A lot of talk is just, can Derek Carr do it? And, I mean, Devontae Adams was just a top 4 wide receiver. I'm pretty sure Derek Carr can do it. But the concern here, ADP-wise, and why I wanted to talk about the Saints, because it's not just Chris Olave. It's Chris Olave and the 15th return of Michael Thomas. Like, I don't know what's going on. Like, at this, I saw him lifting weights again, so that's going good. And then if it's not Michael Thomas, Rashid Shaheed was interesting late last year, but that could also be cart horse type of situation of where there weren't a lot of options left. And then I wanted to pull it in. We are talking a lot of tight ends today, but we need to include Juwan Johnson into this mix because Juwan Johnson was the breakout tight end a lot of people hoped Troutman could be. We're hoping a lot of the other options they've had throughout the years actually kind of moved past Taysom Hill in the fact of the third option. So where are you today? Are you in on Chris Olave's ADP being top 15 wide receiver? Are you in on Michael Thomas for the fact he's being drafted as a wide receiver 4 because we're tired of it? And are you in on Juwan Johnson because he's not even being drafted as a tight end 1? Or basically, I guess the question is, are you in on all of the Saints?
I really like this Saints team this year. I think that they're going to make some noise from a real NFL standpoint. I think they're going to be pretty good. The division is definitely up for grabs. A solid offensive line. I'm 100% in on Chris Olave. I know you are as well. As a top 15 wide receiver is where I have him ranked. I guess the big question is, would you take him over a Tee Higgins, a Devontae Smith, a Garrett Wilson? At Garrett Wilson, I probably would have Garrett Wilson over Olave. And then I have the conversation, do I want those 1Bs on those squads in Higgins and Smith, with AJ and Jamar Chase, or do I just want Chris Olave?
I hate cutting you off, but our good friend Pat Mayo, the bees, like you always put that graphic from Nicolas Cage in that movie.
Right. That's right. I forgot about that. You can cut me off anytime, especially when you mentioned Mr. Pat Mayo, who you can see on Game Plus Network as well. But the thing with Olave is, maybe he starts the season as like a 1A, 1B, like Higgins and like Devontae Smith. But you mentioned Michael Thomas. I mean, Michael Thomas, I had to double check this morning. Thomas could have played a possible 50 regular season games over the last 3 years, and he's played 10 of 50 over the last 3 years for Michael Thomas. I mean, it's not going to cost you a whole lot. I think I'm in on taking a couple flyers on Michael Thomas here and there, but I do have, let's be honest. I mean, we've seen it now. I don't want to be a negative Nancy on this show. I'm rooting for Michael Thomas to play a full season. But this is a large sample size here now of him not being able to stay on the field. I see everything you're seeing. He's running routes. He's working out. He's saying all the right things. Derek Carr is just like talking him up, a violent route runner. Really looking forward to playing with him. I just have some concerns that he's going to be able to stay healthy. Juwan Johnson, I'm in as well. I mean, 7 touchdowns from a tight end for the year before as a big body tight end. Again, if Thomas misses some time, who's the consistent 2 inside this offense? I don't think it will be Shaheed. I think he's going to get some deep shots down the field. He's got a high ADOT, could be explosive, boom or bust. But I wouldn't be shocked if maybe Johnson is the number 2 target here. And I do agree with Michael. It's Wilson over Olave.
Well, so I'll come back to that in a second, but just for everybody out there that might not be looking at the ADP right now on Underdog, that's kind of our best ADP source right now, given the data available. So Michael Thomas, behind Bateman and Flowers, the Ravens teammates, he's behind both of them.
I'd rather
and behind Elijah Moore, the number 2, who just is coming off one of the more disappointing seasons of anybody in fantasy last year for the Cleveland Browns. Then we go, Mike. So it's Elijah Moore, Rashad Bateman, Zay Flowers, Michael Thomas at wide receiver 47. Right behind him, Cortland Sutton, and suspended Jamison Williams. Like, this is where Michael Thomas is going.
Crazy.
This is, and by the way, right in front of Evan Ingram, like at tight end. Also bringing up Juwan Johnson at tight end. You could take Gerald Everett, Irv Smith, Sam Laporta before you get to Juwan Johnson, all the way at pick 171, essentially free, and then a few more picks, and he's still free. Down there with the likes of Tyquan Thornton, Jaden Reed, rookie for the Packers, and he's behind a rookie in Sam Laporta for the Lions, and actually also behind Taysom Hill. So
yeah, I just saw that. This is strange.
I know. I want to go back to what you just said is like Wilson in front of Olave. I don't disagree much. I actually think the safer pick for me is actually Olave. Like, I think there's a world where Aaron Rodgers hones in a little bit on Allen Lazard, which I brought up before, in the end zone, in the red zone, that he uses some of his other options, that there's just enough on the team that maybe Garrett Wilson has 1,104, which is a great season. But that's the DJ Moore that we used to know that finished at wide receiver 16, 18, which is fine. But right now, Garrett Wilson's going at wide receiver 8. What did I say on the Saturday show? Don't buy all the risk. I love Garrett Wilson. I have Garrett Wilson in my home keeper league because I drafted him cheap last year. I love Garrett Wilson. But he's sandwiched between CeeDee Lamb and Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's going in front of Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's going in front of Devontae Adams, who's behind St. Brown. He's going in front of Jalen Waddle. Olave is all the way down at wide receiver 12, Devontae Smith, Tee Higgins, and the rest. I just think that's the problem I have with it, is that I think Olave is fine. Olave actually even has the highest ceiling just like him. If, as you mentioned, like, what is Michael Thomas at this point? What if he's nothing? What if he's just toast? What if he's turned into like what DeAndre Hopkins is assumed to be at this point? Actually, even better. Like, go back a few years, like kind of the broken down, like way. I'm going to pull you way back on this one. What if it's Andre Johnson at the end of his career? Like,
yikes.
Like, woo, 700 yards and 3 touchdowns.
He's over
4 touchdowns.
Yeah, and he's over 30 now, right? MT. So, I mean, if he can stay healthy, this will be a really good offense. I really do believe it. It may be one of the better ones anyways inside the NFC. We'll see what happens to Alvin Kamara. I agree with Brzee. I don't even think it'll be a shock. Like, the Saints are favored to win the division. They should win the division. This is Derek Carr's first time ever with a top 10 defense behind him. He's played on brutal defensive squads inside the AFC, so he can just manage the game. Lean on some of the running backs that they have, and Jamal Williams and Kendra Miller, who they drafted. Olave, too, by the way, just looking at some of our tools over at FTN, ADOT and air yards. I know you reference it sometimes as well in your articles over at The Athletic. He's the only wide receiver inside the top 10 in both, in terms of X amount of targets. It's a guy that was targeted deep down the field, and he was getting a big portion of Andy Dalton's air yards. And again, what's going to change this year if Michael Thomas can't show us that he's going to stay healthy? So he's in that tier for me. It's shocking to see Garrett Wilson actually go ahead of Amon-Ra St. Brown, who could be third or fourth targets this year. But Waddle, Olave, Devontae Smith, Tee Higgins, all of that grouping, I really like that grouping. But of those 4, I would suppose Olave has the best chance of being the number 1 option on his squad.
So I want to ask, this is not anything we were supposed to talk about today, but just seeing this list made me think of it. At wide receiver 14, is Tee Higgins the most disrespected wide receiver in fantasy? Like, it's because he's the 2, and I would say because he's the 2, but look in front of him. Waddle and Devontae Smith are in front of him.
Yeah,
like,
both 2s as
Tee Higgins has times, there's been weak stretches where like he's been the better option than Jamar Chase. Still taking Chase 10 times as a 10, and Jamar Chase has the opportunity to be the number 1 in fantasy. I don't think Tee Higgins does, but it seems like nobody ever pays it. Like, nobody, like, Tee Higgins is like the forgotten guy. Like, it's like everybody wants the seconds, even Calvin Ridley, and then people are like, nah, Tee Higgins is just, whatever. I think I'm just gonna have a billion Higgins shares this year.
Especially if you start running back, like if you're at the first part of the draft and if you go CMC or you go
Higgins
Eckler,
in the 3rd, go running back, and Higgins in the 3rd.
It's very possible.
Not that I would. I'm just like,
it's very possible to do something like that. The Independence Day draft that I did on Sirius is a little bit different because it's 2 tight ends. But I picked, I think, in the 3 spot, I believe it went Jamar Chase, and on the way back, those guys were available to me, like Tee Higgins, Devontae, Olave, Waddle. Could have did it there. Could get one of those 4 or 5
points per game.
Round.
without cheating and looking, because I know you wouldn't, but just wanted to preface that because he's going to do it without looking. The three: Waddle, Smith, and Higgins, where they finished last year in points per game. Just those three.
I know Devontae finished high, but he played every game. So I would say probably Higgins because he missed some time. I would say Higgins, Waddle, Devontae. Close.
It was actually Waddle, Higgins, Devontae. But Waddle was 13.2, Higgins 13 even, and then Devonta Smith was actually down at 12.3, 0.7 per game behind both of the 0.7, 0.9. It's not a huge gap, but I'm just bringing up the point is if you looked at ADP, it's like it's those two, and then Higgins is actually almost like a half round behind them.
I don't think any of them are bad picks. I think they're all
neither do
really
I.
Good picks. I think
just love
after
the value
that,
in Higgins.
Me too.
He's
And
at
after
the 2-3
that,
turn. Sorry, go ahead.
DK, Ridley, Debo, I got questions about all three.
Well,
Like,
so
I
let's
have
bring up
concerns about all three of
DK
them.
because Dean jumped into the chat before we even got rolling and asked us 10-team PPR, Metcalf 25th overall. Too high or too low? You know my answer.
I think it's a little high.
I think it's very
It's a
high.
little high. Yeah. I mean, we did this conversation before. I don't know if I have the data in front of me, but Tyler Lockett has finished ahead of DK Metcalf in back-to-back years in fantasy points per game. And I know that Jackson Smith-Njigba is now on the squad. He's actually getting drafted ahead of Tyler Lockett. It's just these teammates shouldn't be that far apart. We're just talking about all these other 1Bs. Why isn't and again, and maybe this is because JSN is in there, but for the past 2 years, one guy has gone much higher than the other guy, where these other wide receivers are much closer to each other. We could even include Ridley and Chark into the conversation, or Kirk into the conversation. Those are two teammates that the gap is significant. Remember the gap last year for Elijah Moore and Garrett Wilson? Why was it that big? It should have been flipped. So, yeah, I have some concerns about that too. I love DK Metcalf. I think he's a stud. I think he has a higher ceiling. But
it's not even DK Metcalf like we've seen it that stretch of the 8 games. Like we've seen DK Metcalf potentially top 3 wide receiver. It's the addition of Smith-Njigba, which I do believe. Look, he's more similar to Tyler Lockett than he is DK Metcalf. Like if something were to happen where Metcalf or Lockett fell off talent production wise and Smith-Njigba jumped in, it would be more likely for Lockett than DK Metcalf. But 100%, this is the Tyler Lockett value show. Like the fact that Smith-Njigba is going in front of him is absurd. It's bonkers. It's you know what?
Doesn't make
it's
any
duck
sense.
crap crazy. The issue I have with DK Metcalf is where he's going cost overall, but also the names around him is like, if you don't go running back in round 1, Ramondre Stevenson and Josh Jacobs are right there with him in ADP. And then right behind him is Breece Hall, which they're still... Please don't sign there, Dalvin Cook. Please let Breece Hall... if Dalvin Cook signs, we know Breece Hall is not ready. Like, at least
That's
not 100%. There's no way that they bring it. But anyway, you brought up Ridley Cooper. We have questions about them. But even Najee Harris is going almost 10 picks after DK Metcalf. Whether you are concerned about Jalen Ward or not. And then you go Jahmyr Gibbs, Watson, Judy, Etienne, London, who I love London, McLaurin. Just, it's more so the names right there. I don't think there's a big gap from DK Metcalf to those wide receivers a full round later. So I'll take the position. What do we talk about? Tiers. Like getting the guys that are there at other positions and then just letting somebody take DK Metcalf at what seems to be his peak.
Yeah, and especially in this underdog format, like I want to do like a hero RB. I want to get one of those RBs. You just mentioned Stevenson, maybe Breece Hall, Najee Harris, and even like the quarterback run is kind of there as well, like in that first tier with Mahomes and Allen.
There's no way Stevenson doesn't get to the mid-second round by the time August gets here, right? Like this can't continue. He's in the 3rd round right now, still at the beginning of the 3rd round.
He's an absolute steal. Got 60+ passes last year. There's nobody. I don't even know who else is there. Like James Robinson, they brought in, they let go.
Could you imagine starting Cup, Waddle, Stevenson?
It's fantastic. That's a fantastic start. Yeah, and you know I'm all about that start because you got 2 alpha wide receivers there and a running back that is a true bell cow running back that should be headed for over 300 touches in his 3rd year in the NFL and prove to us that he's one of the better pass-catching running backs in the league. Maybe one of the guys that not a lot of people would even they'd have to double-check. I've triple-checked. Wow, 60+ catches for him. There was like a 5 to 6 week stretch last year where he was the leading receiver on the team. And what they do, they didn't bring anybody.
I'm with you. I want a bell cow running back in the first 2 rounds. Bell cow for fantasy purposes, as in the floor is double digits. Like Granted, there is that it's not a guarantee, but that's what we're going for here. So you start first 2 picks. You probably have to be in the 1 or 2 spot for the Stevenson situation to have, but you start Jefferson or Kupp, or even Chase if you wanted to. You come back around and looking at ADP right now, forget Waddle. Coming back around, like what do you Tee Higgins, Devonta Smith, Waddle, Olave, like you could do any of those and then bam, Ramondre Stevenson. Like it's just absurd. But
I've done a couple drafts and I do like to be in that first 5. Like you said, you get a stud in the first 5, you get one of those 1Bs that we're talking about, that other group, and then potentially
let me give you one.
Low end
I'm
RB1.
going to give you a wide receiver, running back, and see which start you like better. I'm just curious. So say Jefferson, Higgins, Stevenson is your first 3.
Hard to beat
Jefferson,
that.
Higgins, Stevenson. Okay. Or we'll say St. Brown, Adams, and Najee Harris.
I own the first one, but the second is solid too.
So the second was those were the opposite turns. I was just those are the 1 and then 12-ish. But
and I think I would probably go Amon-Ra, Chubb, and then die back into the wide receivers if I was at the end of the first.
So you just threw it all out the window for
just
me.
preference.
All right.
I like the first one a lot better, but I mean it's still pretty good there.
So talking some tight ends, because I promised we talked Dalton Kincaid today. So we'll talk some more tight ends on Wednesday's show. But Dalton Kincaid, we talked about him back when. We got to bring him up again because we were talking rookies. We were talking about the draft. Now it's time to jump into Dalton Kincaid a little bit more. Kincaid right now at tight end, where do you think he's going? What tight end do you think he is?
14. He's really rising.
Nope. 12. Dalton Kincaid. This is so... Going from picks 8 through 15, just pick those out because that's after the Waller tier. Like that big 7 is the big 7. It starts Ingram, Njoku, Freiermuth. I said Freiermuth. Like Pat's got me stuck on the fire mouth. So I'm like Freiermuth, Okonkwo, Kincaid, Dulcich, Schultz, Higbee, Kmet, Everett, Irv, Laporta, Juwan Johnson way down there.
Yeah.
Dalton Kincaid. Going to line up at wide receiver. He's a wide receiver at a tight end body position, blah, blah, blah. You know my feelings on this. I really have a problem with taking the tight end here, and it's not because of the talent. It's not that I don't believe he'll play some wide receiver lineup positions like an Ingram, like Gronkowski, like, the best are Andrews, Kittle, down the list. Like, that talent's there. Mm-hmm. Knox is still there. Knox is a better blocker. This is a team that barely ran any 12, and I know teams will change. Teams will adapt to their roster. But at the same time, how much 12 are you going to have from a bottom 5 team in 12? They're not going to jump to top 5. And even so, let's not forget this, Meaney. Remember everybody with OJ Howard and Brate will be fine. They have no other options after the top 2 wide receivers, and it's Tom Brady. They'll both be fine. Cameron Brate will be fine with they bring in Cade Otton. Cade Otton's going to have some value. Remember how people excited were... How excited people were, if I can say that in the correct order, they were for Cade Otton, the rookie last year, because of this very thing. Is Kincaid better than Otton? Sure, you could argue it. And I think if they're in the same draft, they go probably similar NFL style overall. Mm-hmm. This feels like drunk hype to me. I don't know what's going on. Like I can't do this. If he was 20, absolutely, it's all upside there. But at 12, seriously,
I'm surprised he's gotten it. I'm actually surprised he's gotten that high to 12. I've done a lot of best ball drafts. I have seen some people reach, but that's different. Like, it is different. Even Brzee 91 hanging out. A Josh Allen dynasty would love to stack Kincaid. Like, that's different. Dynasty, I like the future here with Kincaid, right? I believe in the Travis Kelce comps. Now, that's a pretty high bar, but from a redraft standpoint, just give me a tight end in that range that could be like, I don't know, like the number 2 option. Like Okonkwo could be the number 1 option actually in Tennessee. Like, he's going right around there. Dulcich I kind of like. He could play a Jimmy Graham role for Sean Payton in Denver. We saw him on the field last year.
Could be the number 2 or 1, and he could be the 1 for the Texans.
He could be the 1. You know what? I kind of expect him to be, especially inside the red zone, to be the 1. So I do like to live in that range, but and you know what? Kincaid is going to ball out, and he's going to be one of those players that, Jake, we're going to be talking about more because I've already heard it from athletes and reporters, without pads, that he's running terrific routes. He's explosive out of the catch. He's a really good player. But these rookie tight ends, and don't come at me with Kyle Pitts, because Kyle Pitts was the only guy on the squad. You still got Diggs, still got Gabe Davis, right? You still have like Cook catching balls in the backfield. Shakir is a guy that I'm pretty interested in as a late round flyer. So Knox is also a tight end that's going to be on the field and in the red zone. So it's a little bit too high. I would rather, if I'm taking a tight end, I mean, I'd rather
rookie
one,
Laporta.
Laporta, because he could be the number 2 for the first 6 weeks of the season in Detroit.
Yeah. With no Jameson Williams and no DJ Chark. DJ Chark. I'm never going to let that go.
No,
So,
as you shouldn't.
As you shouldn't let us go. But we have to let you go. Half shows at this time of year. We'll get into the full ones, but you're getting it twice a week now. So that's the good thing. Easy to digest. You could do this during your exercise. At Chris Meaney over at FTN, code all in gets you 20% off. We'll be back on Wednesday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern, Monday, Wednesdays. Meaney and I will be back. All in Kid, go vote in the poll. Curious. Mario Kart's the worst. Trust me, it is. And a reminder on Saturday, Sirius XM, 9 to 11 a.m. You can just get a free 3 months. So, yay! Appreciate you guys. It looks like the chat's starting to ramp up. Woo! I don't know what I'm doing.
Wednesday.
Yeah.
Cheers.